Hello and welcome everybody. Viking Virus here with Aramis.
Good evening.
We've got a real treat for you guys today with a chat with the developers of exciting and distinctive new game that's currently in prototype, Jaws of Extinction. We've got with us Ryan Thirwall, lead developer,
Hiya.
James Jueno, project manager,
Hey there.
and Joe Fyfe Hardy, story artist.
Hello.
Welcome guys.
Thank you.
So, can you give us a brief overview? What exactly is Jaws of Extinction?
It's become kind of difficult for us to define what it is because when we set out making the game, and as it's grown, we've wanted to cover a lot of different things so that the detail that's going into every aspect of the game is quite big. So in some senses, it's a survival game. In others, it's a story-driven game. It's exploration, it's crafting, combat, pretty much everything you can imagine from an open world survival game, but in great detail. So we found it quite hard to define as it's grown.
You're calling it sort of like, what was it, a sandbox survival?
Yeah, it's a sandbox survival, story-driven, massive multiplayer online zombie game, essentially.
So that's like an SSD MPG.
Short and to the point.
Something or the other.
Yeah. Oh, we might have to change the website so it just says that.
What do you think makes this game stand out compared to other games of the same genre like DayZ or Next Day Survival or Rust?
Well, I think with all of those titles you said, we've aimed to get all the best bits from all of them and mix in our own ideas as well. So in Jaws of Extinction, one of the cool features that we have is a dynamic quest system. So within the island, there's going to be lots of different world events, and players on a server can interact or interrupt any quests that any other players start. So, for example, there's a lady and a cat stuck up a tree, and I was like, oh, I'll go rescue this cat. And then another player comes along and it's like, oh, that quest's already started. Oh, maybe I can go help this person because the quest might actually be more difficult. Or they could decide, you know what, I'm not going to help that little old lady get her cat. And they can decide to do whatever. Just in real life, there's always a choice. Additionally, with our skill system as well, we try to think of a way similar to real life. How would people actually evolve and adapt in an apocalypse? And there are lots of games out there who use skill trees and you collect points and invest points in abilities and stuff, and real life doesn't really work like that. So we've come up with a system that evolves as you do. So for example, if in real life you're a mechanic and that's what you love doing, in the game you can actually learn that skill, and as you learn you get better at doing things. So fixing an engine takes less time, for example, and with that skill you can integrate that into a community. So if you're like fantastic in the mechanic skill, people are going to value you for that, and if they want upgrades on their car or something's broken, they're more likely to come to you to ask for it to help. And then there's monetary exchange as well, so they can pay for goods and services. So ultimately it takes all of the good bits from titles and just makes it ultra realistic and hopefully a really fun, enjoyable thing to play.
So if you learn a particular skill, is like that the only skill that then you can use, or could you learn all the skills, or if you learn one you don't get to learn another?
Well, ultimately in the game we plan on having lots and lots of different skills, and there's nothing really limiting you to learn all of them. But the scale of which we're developing them, we think, I mean, you can definitely try and learn all of them, but we think it'll take a very, very long time for you to learn all of them.
It all depends really on the way you play. If you're one of these people that likes to go out hunting than you do upgrading cars and stuff like that, then you'll get better at the hunting skills than you will the mechanic skill. But if someone spends a lot of time repairing and upgrading vehicles and stuff like that, then they'll get better at the mechanic skill. It all depends on how it sort of like develops to your play style and what you prefer to do, rather than say you got a group of 4 people in a sort of like a clan. and they say, right, well, I'm going to be the shooter person, and I'm going to be the hunting person, and I'm going to be. It won't matter like that. It'll just develop as you play. So
you are just who you are.
Yeah.
Like in real life.
So as you play with your character will get better at those skills.
What happened in Eden-Nadir? Can we get a hint at the storyline?
You can. It's a tricky one to say without giving too much away, but I can give you a bit of a background without telling you too much about what's happening on the island when you arrive. So the premise, I don't mind sharing that the premise of the outbreak is that it is fungal. That it's based on a real fungus called the Ophiocordyceps unilateralis fungus, which is also known as the zombie ant virus. Don't know if you guys have heard of it.
Yeah.
Yeah. So what happens is in real life, this fungus goes into the brain of this ant, and the ant loses its senses. It climbs to the top of the tree canopy, buries its head in the tree, and then releases spores, which then go down on the other ants, and they get infected. But something that is also in real life about these ants is that this fungus, as well as turning the ants into zombies, it also develops its own really unique immune system. And that's, again, in real life, currently being investigated by actual scientists as a possible way to cure some really difficult things for the human race. So the premise of the game is that somebody has done that. They found cures and ways to benefit humanity from investigating these, but it all goes a bit wrong and essentially cures death itself, but people don't come back in the way that they hoped that they would, and are zombies essentially trying to continue spreading the fungus around. So you join the island, the island of Eden-Nadir 6 months into a global outbreak. Eden-Nadir is one of the last places in the world that's been hit by the infection, because they managed to keep it off until then, because it's a relatively small island, obviously, compared to the rest of the world. So you kind of join them in their journey to try and survive as the outbreak takes over.
It sounds absolutely epic. I think I read a piece of your storyline before. I think it was possibly on your website.
Was it the journal entries?
Yeah, I think it was, yeah. I'm a big novel reader myself, and I read that and I was like, I'm hooked already.
Oh, I'm glad you think so, because that's a great thing for. It always frustrates me in video games when the story doesn't make sense and when you really want to get into it, but it loses it. So I mean, being able to put like novel-like detail into a game for me is pretty exciting.
Open world survival goes together with multiplayer. So what kind of multiplayer will it be? Hardcore survival for the individual, or teaming up against zombies, or all against all?
Well, I think with Jaws of Extinction, the best answer is all of it. Players will actually have the choice on how they want to play. So within the game, there is going to be PvP, but there is also going to be an integrity system. And an integrity system will be involved to kind of steer away from a shoot-on-sight attitude that some people have in MMOs. And that's going to be taken into effect when players decide to attack other players, other NPCs, and that will increase their integrity, or should I say decrease their integrity, meaning that they're much less likely to be accepted into safe zones.
So that's more like a karma system.
Yeah, kind of. So if you go around killing players, your acts will slowly go across the island. So if you go to a safe zone and they've heard about the things you've done, for example, you may even get shot at. So they go, that guy is renowned for killing players. Don't let him in. So there could be different stages of it. So some people will just not want to talk to you and don't want to trade with you, or some people might actively aggro on you. It kind of depends on how severe your acts have been. Additionally, with PvP, there will be options for players to work together so they can build communities and build factions. And as in real life, if there are two big groups looking at the same resource and they want the same thing, there is going to be conflict. And whether that's diplomatic or physical is very much up to them. So we're not encouraging PvP, but we're not discouraging it either. It's entirely up to them. But their acts, their choices, there will be consequences for them.
Sadly, online multiplayer goes along with cheaters. Will there be an anti-cheat system? And if yes, which one will it be? Have you considered that yet? EAC, BattleEye, Overwatch. What's your thoughts on that?
Yeah, we have talked about it a while back about what we were going to do with that. We were going to we haven't decided fully, but it's either going to be the easy cheat system, or easy anti-cheat, or BattleEye.
Yeah, those two seem to be the ones that I see in most games, and those seem to be the games that have the least obvious cheaters, I should say.
Yeah, additionally, on top of that, we have been developing constantly so that the majority of the calculations are made on server side. So clients will have little to no real calculations to make their end. So it's going to be even harder for any client or any player to actually access any calculations that could duplicate items, for example.
How would that affect, server performance?
Well, to be honest, there's a lot of games, well, a majority of games already do that out there. And that's kind of the rule of thumb. You should get your server side doing the majority of the calculations. Otherwise, the client, on one hand, is able to cheat. And secondly, their frames, like their performance will be much lower. And obviously, you don't want your players to have bad performance. So you would have to rely on having very decent servers to provide that performance for them, so that the client can just join on a server and the performance will be lovely, hopefully.
So will it be possible to raid other players' bases like in Rust, and what's going to be the main goal in multiplayer?
Well, as stated before, there is going to be PvP in there, and again, whether players decide to make bases and work together is completely up to them. But all through the building system that we have implemented, we will be assigning health to buildings stuff. So, for example, barricades, walls, these will all be upgradable, but additionally, they're also going to be destroyable. So, for example, if somebody has wooden walls surrounding their bases, they are going to be able to be destroyed, but players are going to have the option to upgrade those as well, so they're going to be less likely to get destroyed.
Let's head back to the storyline again. What different characters will there be available for the player? And most importantly, what kind of enemies are we going to be coming up against?
Okay, well, characters I suppose we'll cover first. At the moment, we have 4 playable characters planned. So you can choose whichever character you like. They'll have different automatic skills that they're instinctively good at. So you can choose the one that maybe suits how you want to start off, or the one whose story you like the best. That's our current initial plan for first release of the game. In terms of characters you can play as, we've had a lot of questions about will there be character creation, and that's something we've talked a lot about because we really like it as a concept and it's something we want to look at, but we can't say for sure yet whether or not it's something we're definitely going to do. We do talk about it a lot, but it's like you were saying, it's about immersion. A really good game, you get really immersed in it, and I think being able to make your own character, that really adds to that. So it's definitely something we need to properly consider. But currently, as it stands now, there will be 4 main characters you can play as for definite. Where we have it at the moment with the prototype, because we're obviously very, very early on in development, we have 1 character that's rigged and that you're able to play as and that you can use. So that's where we're at with characters for now. In terms of NPC characters, to add to the story immersion, every NPC that you meet will have their own backstory. I'm not saying that what I'm going to do is write a really long story for each character, but imagine, for example, if you went to the shop in your everyday life, you'd meet people who are going about their everyday business. And they have their own stories. You never find out what those stories are unless you stop and talk to them, but that's what I wanted to feel like in the game. So if you encounter an NPC in a safe zone or out in the woods when you're out hunting or they're out hunting, I want to give it the feel that they are going somewhere or doing something. So say you did go out into the woods to hunt zombies and you came across somebody who was gathering wood, an NPC, for example, and you decided to follow them. They would then go somewhere. So they'd chop their wood and then they'd head off and they'd go back to their safe zone, wherever it was they were going to be. And if you followed them the whole way, you'd find that they went back and they went into a house and they'd stash that wood away somewhere. So each NPC is a character in and of themselves, but you can take it or leave it whether or not you want to interact with them. that's how we're planning to do it, to sort of reflect, like James was saying before, we want it to be as realistic as possible. So that's NPC characters. And in terms of zombies, so enemy characters, not just zombies, there will be a number of hostile military factions of NPCs. Again, without wanting to give away too much of the storyline, I don't want to give away too much of that. You'll also meet mercenaries on the island that you currently can encounter in the prototype version that we've released. There will also be a range of different kinds of zombies, so sort of normal zombies, your standard shambling around trying to eat your face off zombies, as well as larger, more special infected. But there is a reason. There's a reason for why those special zombies are the way they are. We've not just gone, oh, let's make a big zombie and a small zombie and a zombie that can fly and that sort of thing. We've gone for reasons why they would be the way they are.
What made you guys decide to use Unreal Engine 4 as the game engine?
Wow, that's a big question. Well, personally, I've used both Unity and Unreal, and they're both good engines. Don't get me wrong. They're both powerful in their own different ways, and they progress in different ways as well. In terms of the release and like the updates, and through my experience, Unreal for me is just a lot more user friendly. Just the UI, the interface is much more understandable. It's super powerful as well in terms of what you can do, and the integrated blueprint system as well makes coding like amazing. I've learned various languages, but for me the blueprint system is such a visual way of coding, and I find it so much easier just to fly around the code looking at blueprints and visualizing what it's actually doing and when, than writing lines of code. Everyone's different. Like some people just love just core coding and scripting, but for me personally, I love the blueprint system, and I think it really does increase the efficiency of our workflow. And we've all worked in blueprints pretty much from its conception, and just being able to template something. So like the NPCs, for example, you can get a base and make that like the parent, and then you've got children coming off that run on that code, and it's just super easy for us to manage our workflows and pipelines that way.
And it's definitely a very pretty engine.
Yeah, definitely.
It is. They do a lot of things well in it, especially with the lighting and so, some of the post processing that you can do with it. But as well as there's a lot of stuff that we've that haven't been done in blueprints. Like the whole save system is done in hard C++ code, and there's other elements of it that we're using a lot of C++ plugins and stuff like that to help us accomplish what we need to do for the game.
What ways of supporting Jaws of Extinction during the development are there? You're running Kickstarter, did you say?
Yes, we launched our Kickstarter on the 31st of March, which has been a really exciting venture. We've been working hard on it for quite some time, and we thought it was such an excellent way of showing off our prototype as well. So on our Kickstarter, every backer receives instant access to the Jaws of Extinction prototype, and they're able to play the island, not of the main map of Eden-Nadir, but Loch Rest. And they're able to explore the smaller island, and there's actually tasks for you to do and complete, and you have to make your way off the island. And additionally, you've also included another map where you're able to access building, and also first person as well, which is just such an awesome thing to play as. And third person is great. I love third person, but as soon as you go into first person, like the immersiveness just kind of just clicks. You're like, whoa, this is such a pretty place. So yeah, all backers get instant access to that, and we've only received good feedback with that, which has been fantastic. So yeah, our Kickstarter has been running for 3 days now. It's running for another 27 days, and yeah, we've already got really good response. So hopefully it gets better and better from here.
Yeah, fingers crossed for you. We will drop a link to your Kickstarter in the description to this video, so you guys watching, head down there, make sure you donate to these guys, get yourself a copy of the prototype too. As we mentioned, you're in the prototype stage at the moment. Where's Jaws of Extinction going from here?
Isn't that the question? Well, hopefully with a successful Kickstarter, we'll be able to work for a further 4 months up until the release of our early access. And when we release our early access, we would have, during those 4 months, optimized the main map of Eden-Nadir, which means that you get to play in the whole new level, and it's going to be big. We'll have to officially release it, but we have a picture of the main map, and the map you can play on the prototype, Loch Rest, is an island, and it takes what, Joe, like 10 minutes to run around, probably a little more.
Probably
a little more. And on a map scale of the main map, Loch Rest Island is just a dot. Like, the icon of the island is bigger than the actual island itself. So yeah, Eden-Nadir is pretty huge. I think it's 68 kilometers squared. So it's a pretty big map, and there's going to be all kinds of brilliant content on there. New people to meet, new places to explore. So from there, yeah, we'll be optimizing that and getting things ready for release of the early access. In addition to that, we're also going to be polishing up a cooperative, which means that friends are able to join a player. Up to four people are able to play and explore and do things and build. And so, yeah, amongst other things we're planning in those 4 months, like optimizing animations and adding new systems and stuff.
Oh, this is so exciting. I mean, I'm totally stoked for getting to play this game very soon, hopefully.
Not only you there, Chris. Not only you.
Good, glad to hear that.
Well, thank you guys for the chat.
It was our pleasure. Thank you for having us.
Yeah, thank you for that.
You're welcome. We'll have links in the description to the Jaws of Extinction website and the Kickstarter. So head down there, check them out, and we'll see you very soon. Thanks a lot.